Good morning, everybody. It is Sunday. Hope this finds you well. Today is the 10th of May, and I thought it's such a beautiful day outside that I should really come to you this time. From here off my deck, next to the slopes, it's a small canal, and share the good weather and the good sounds with you. Well, it was a good week again this week, really hectic. I worked real hard, but it was all worth it. Really glad with the results from this week. Finally got to catch up on some much needed sleep yesterday and today. Tapani and I went in town yesterday, had a really good time. We saw the movie Star Trek. Here's an article from the Herald Tribune about it. I think if you're a Trekkie fan, or even if you're not, it's a really good show. You don't have to know about the history or Gene Roddenberry and all the way back to the 60s, you know, what it's about. But you can just start there, and if you like it, great. If you don't, fine. But I think they did a really good job of paying tribute, tribute to the characters, and even deepen characters a little bit, and giving some more background and understanding behind them. So, you know, one of the things I always liked about Star Trek in all its various forms through the years is, you know, they approached a movie making or telling a story in a different, kind of a different point of view, really talking about how in an ideal world we go beyond, you know, the issue of struggling for more, that we get beyond the need for currency, that we get beyond the hang-ups that we have in different societies, and that we really come together as one human race, and if you're really into it, across races throughout the galaxies, and set out to explore and boldly go where no man has gone before. So I think that's really cool. So something to check out if you haven't seen it already. The next thing, on a different matter, this is coming from the business section of the Herald Tribune, talking about the disenfranchised youth here in Europe. Europe struggles to prevent a lost generation. You know, it's something that we all get challenged by. I graduated in '91 from university in Texas, and it was during the time of Bush #1. And it was really cool because we were going through a recession at that time. Not as deep as what we have right now, but it was on the back of the savings and loan crisis. I remember when I graduated, it was really difficult to find a job, and I got a start at a company in Dallas, Texas, working for Transamerica as an auditor, and I worked my butt off. Those who know me and remember that time, it really wasn't the best of times, but through that experience and through just the fact that, you know, I got out, I got started, and I got some momentum in my career, it allowed me to make some steps forward on into what I'm doing right now. So, you know, the best advice I can give you is to try to provide for yourself some forward momentum, even if you're struggling. I know here in Europe it's difficult because labor tends to be a little bit less fluid. You know, in the States we don't think about picking up and moving to Dallas, or moving to Atlanta, or moving to Chicago, or moving to different parts of the country to follow opportunity. But I think in Europe it's a little bit more complicated. Now that we have the EU, it is easier to move and to travel. I know a lot of the people that I have in my company, particularly the younger staff, they're coming from literally all over Europe and other parts of the world. So, you know, they're following opportunity where it leads them, and I think that's something that you have to do. But this article is saying a few important things, talking about, you know, this young generation in Italy, Germany, Spain, and Greece, and graduates that are trying to come out right now. They're saying, we are the people who did everything right. Good degrees, internships, accepting any working conditions, and we still can't find a proper job. This is talking about a person living in Paris with some friends there that's not finding work. It says, it's just so much easier for companies to take interns instead of creating jobs. I mean, you know, internships being used as a cheap way to get labor and then not have to commit to a long-term contract. And of course, people are worried about a lost generation. According to a study published in 2008 by the Foundation for Political Innovation, an independent French policy research group, only 26% of French people between the ages of 16 and 29 see their future as promising, compared with 60% of Danes and 54% of Americans in the same age group. And that's really the issue there, is that if people don't feel like they have a future, sometimes they can turn to more destructive things. They can be self-destructive things, and they can be destructive outside of just themselves. So, obviously we need to find ways to provide opportunity to people. So whether it's me as a managing director of a company and trying to find good and qualified people and help them grow and develop in their professional path, or perhaps in other areas. I know people in NGOs and other areas of government and society are trying to do the same thing, but that's really important. We have to give youth opportunity and give them a chance to fight for the right thing, to develop themselves further personally, not only professionally, but to develop a life. So this kind of ties into the third thing that I wanted to discuss, really interesting. I picked this up from the newspaper, again, Herald Tribune, from this last Thursday. It's talking about happiness is policy in Bhutan. Now, Bhutan is a really small country, kind of wedged in the Himalayas between, I think, China and India. And it's talking about how the pursuit of happiness is actually policy in Bhutan. Sorry for the noise there, if you can hear the plane and the birds. But here you can see the article, and these are actually young people lining first time to vote. The king abdicated his power, so he's still a monarch, but not, let's say, the ruling monarch. It's much like what you have in England, and people are now voting for the first time. So just the lead of this article: if the rest of the world cannot get it right in these unhappy times, this tiny Buddhist kingdom high in the Himalayas says it's working on an answer. Quote, greed, insatiable human greed, Prime Minister Jigme Tinley, describing what he sees as the cause of the economic catastrophe in the world beyond the snow-capped mountains. What we need is change. We need to think in gross national happiness. Now, you may know GNP, gross national product. That's the way we measure the value created in an economy. It's all the goods, products, and services, the sum of all of that, and the rate of change and the growth of that is what we think of as prosperity. But what they're talking about here is, look, we need to look beyond GNP. We need to think about GNH, gross national happiness. So the problem is that when they came up with this idea and they tried to describe it like in let's say meetings around the world, a lot of people and governments were buying into it, but they were saying, well, how do you measure it? And they really didn't have an answer. So now they've gone about really studying it and trying to handle how to measure it. And it says mathematical formulas have even been devised to reduce happiness to its tiniest component parts. It subdivides happiness into several areas. They have a model of well-being that features the 4 pillars, the 9 domains, and the 72 indicators of happiness. More specifically, the government has determined that the 4 pillars of a happy society involve the economy, culture, the environment, and good governance. And it subdivides these into 9 domains: psychological well-being, ecology, health, education, culture, living standards, time use, community vitality, and good governance, each with its own weighted and unweighted G&H index. Now, I'm going to stop there, because if you're really interested in this, I would invite you to dive into this article and read more, or check it out for yourself. But I think it's awfully powerful and very interesting that it's such a small country, and they recognize that democracy is a big part of that. But combined with democracy and this G&H, I think that they've got a model. And I think it's a model that not only can work for Bhutan, but I think it can work for the greater world. So it's something that I'm really interested in following here as it continues to develop further. And well, I'm going to cut myself off there because I'm running out of time. Hopefully I'll have a chance to give you some video from what's happened this week or this last week. I hope this finds you well, that your health is good, your families are doing great, and we're getting ready for a really wonderful summer. Okay? Talk to you later. Bye-bye. So, how many of you can record with a swan in your back garden? Pretty cool, huh? Which movie are we going to go see?
I don't know, Star Trek?
Star Trek, either that or X-Men.
Or Star Trek.
Or Star Trek. Was that a hint?